ball, RJ.
Bill Haston, David Sittler, Spencer Mayberry, RJ Young, OU Insider. RJ, I don't know if you ever were able to hear our conversation with Matt McCoy, reflecting on the unbelievable 1999-2000 transition of OU football from the dregs of the 90s to one of the great 5-year runs in the history of college football. But, man, if you look at that 1999 recruiting class, I don't know that there's ever been – it wasn't that highly rated, and yet, from an impact standpoint, it was as important a class as there's ever been at OU.
Hell, I mean, you could say that at other programs that we're seeing similar trends later. I mean, TCU has never had highly rated classes, but you would say that class that led them to that 2011 run, that'd probably be a changer for them.
Absolutely.
The part that I found interesting, though, was the coaching and the athletic director and how all that seemed to work together for once. You didn't have anybody fighting anybody about what their job was or how to do their job. It was, hey, I'm good at mine, you're good at yours, let's go build a program. And it feels simple, but it ain't.
Talk with R.J. Young. Speaking of McCoys that went to OU, R.J. yesterday, Gerald McCoy, the great defensive tackle, was released by the Bucks, which I think is great for him to go. He can go now to a good team. But where do you place him in your thoughts about OU, some of the top players in OU history?
Oh, man. Top players in OU history. Well, he's got to be right there with Tommy Harris and Dusty Dvorak, wherever you want to rank those guys. But for me, GK is the last first-round draft pick that Oklahoma produced on the defensive side of the ball. That's where he ranks. I mean, it's been that long. Yeah. And people forget, that dude is homegrown, right? That dude's from this state, the state that we continue to argue about. Are OK Preps good enough to play at Oklahoma? When they go to Texas, they go to California, they go to Florida, went to Louisiana for a while, right? But I think GKs are also once in a generation. That's also kind of the point. Every kid that comes out of their high school program is a once-in-a-generation talent. That's certainly GK. And when he was on the defensive line, Brent Venables had a pretty good defense. So you can make that argument that if you got good defensive tackle play, you're going to be pretty good on the defensive side of the ball.
And that just shows, I mean, that's what they've been missing, like you said, since then. In recruiting, what they have signed in the last couple of years, maybe not a Gerald McCoy, but you think they're on the upswing there with some of that talent on the defensive line?
Neville Gallimore could be that guy.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it's a stretch to say Neville Gallimore is more talented than GK coming out of high school, period. I don't necessarily think it's a stretch to say that GK was working with less talent at OU than Neville Gallimore is today. But we're talking about scheme and we're talking about fit. We're talking about, can you maximize that player's talent? So now you got a guy like Neville Gallimore, who was running around at 337 and busting out 4 740s, who's dropped down to around 295, is in a new system where he's told, hey, don't catch blocks, split them. And now you're going to get to see what Big Canada could do. This is a guy that, again, could have ended up at Ohio State, where all Larry Johnson Sr. has done is turn Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Draymond Jones, Chase Young next year into first-round talents, the kind of guys that are taken off the board at the top, not at the bottom. So that's the kind of talent Neville Gallimore has. So it's not like OU hasn't landed a guy like that. It's, can you develop him? And we're going to see if Grinch can develop a guy he did not recruit, but if he could turn Hercules Mataafa into an All-American, he should be able to do the same with Neville Gallimore, yes?
Well, when during Gerald McCoy's final season in the program in 2009, OU was 8th, and I know, and Pat Jones mentioned, when I mentioned this before the show, Pat said, total defense, that statistic in and of itself isn't always a storyteller, and that's exactly right.
Although, it's a junk statistic, yeah.
Gerald's final season in the program, OU was 8th in the country in defense, and at no point since then has OU been better. There was one season, 13, when OU was 20th nationally in total defense. Otherwise, the more typical ranking has been in the 60s or 50s, with last year's awful anomaly of 114th in the country. So, the combination of Gallimore and I'm with you. He's exceptionally he's very conspicuous because of the way he moves at that size, RJ. So maybe Grinch can get elevate him to a much better level of performance, and maybe he's destined to be a guy in the league as well.
Yeah, we need a Jeremy Beal to come up alongside him too. That's kind of the other point, right? Like I know that GK gets a lot of the accolades because he was taking one and he's carried Tampa Bay's defense for a very long time. could end up, the fit is the Colts, right? That's the fit. But, hey, John Dorsey, don't turn down nothing but your collar. Go put him next to Olivier Vernon and Myles Garrett if you got space. Or Baltimore, right? Do you want him to go after other AFC North teams like Cincy, like the Steelers, like Cleveland, or my team? Stephen Jones, pick up the phone and go get Gerald McCoy. Make that man a Dallas Cowboy. Bring him home. I don't know. That's wishful thinking. I don't think they're going to do that, but it'd be fun.
The Browns players are already tweeting and begging Gerald to come to Cleveland, but I'm with you. I like the Cowboys too, but talk with R.J. Young, OU Insider. You had an interesting little tweet yesterday, R.J., about Kenneth Murray Jr. Didn't realize he's had the most tackles of any player since 2007.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it, haters. Look, dude had 155 tackles last year. I don't care if he had 28 in a game. I don't care if he had all 155 in a game. You're not going to get that kind of production out of a guy and just go, no, I don't really want him playing at OU, which is how a lot of people feel. Or they want to move him out of his position. By the way, he just made that position his own. So, I mean, you're putting Kenneth Murray Jr. in the same conversation with Curtis Lofton because you have to. Not because it's a comparison. It's because it is the only comparison. And I think there's a lot of people out there that really like what Curtis Lofton was able to do. Now, ask again, who was the last great middle linebacker to come out of Oklahoma? And you'd have to say Curtis Lofton. So, I mean, we're talking about a dude that can play Mike, you can play Will. Alex Grinch has said that position inside linebacker is interchangeable in his defense. I say, okay, cool. But only one of those guys is making the calls, and that's who the guy we're going to call the Mike. And Kenneth Murray Jr. fits that. You know, he's big, he's strong, he has the ear of the younger kids, he has the ear of the older kids. But if you want to move him over the rush end, fine. You can do that. He's got the speed. He's got the size. He can certainly play contain because his sideline to sideline is ridiculous. Best chase tackler on your team. But you also got like 5 dudes you can play at rush in next year, so why? You know, I could see you moving him to Will and calling him Mike so you get Deshaun White on the field or whatnot, what have you. You're going to probably put Deshaun White on the field anyway because Caleb Kelly's injured. But also giving Levi Draper an opportunity to win some time. Giving Brian Meade an opportunity to win some time. Point is, I think that Kenneth Murray Jr. could end up as a first-round pick, not talent, first-round pick at this time next year that we're talking about because of the way that he made the leap last year.
Is that what he had in the Army game, RJ, at 28?
I believe so.
Oh, my gosh.
It's something stupid because he broke a record.
Yeah.
I think it was Jackie Shipp's record, if I got it. Somebody's going to find this out.
He had, I remember there was chatter in the press box. He had 20 tackles with a lot of game left.
Right.
And
the argument was he couldn't get into the backfield, right? That was the argument. It's like, cool, he can chase people down. I'm like, are you watching the same offense I'm watching? Have you seen the flex bone before? You take away the dive play, you're going to get it outside. That's kind of how this is built anyway.
And if you just circle back and connect some dots too, I mean, you remember what Army did to Houston in the bowl game.
Oh, man.
Absolutely whacked Houston, and now Houston opens at Oklahoma. So an Oklahoma team that struggled like crazy with Army. And you know what, though? A lot of teams struggled with Army. And
they only had, what? They had 2 losses, man. They had 2 losses.
They didn't lose again. They did. That OU loss, they didn't lose again after that.
No. Shout out to Kelvin Hopkins, by the way.
Hey, that quarterback, I wrote it at the time. I wrote that quarterback might have been the best pure option operative, I don't know, since whomever. I mean,
since Ahmad Bradshaw the year before.
Since who?
Ahmad Bradshaw the year before.
Well, maybe. But I mean, you have to go back to a pure option look. I mean, I don't know. One of the Nebraska guys, Tommy Frazier, I don't know. I mean, but it had been a while since somebody ran the option that beautifully on Owen Field.
Bill brought that name up. I didn't bring that name up. I didn't bring up the Grim Reaper. But all right, Bill, cool.
Hey, RJ, as of tomorrow, it's 100 days till kickoff. So.
Is that many?
Yeah.
Oh, gone, man.
Or that few. I mean, it's next thing you know, you're going to blink your eye. We're going to be going to Dallas for the Big 12. So
I blinked 6 times.
Yeah.
Just now.
It's coming. All right, RJ.
I appreciate you, Bill. I appreciate you, Dave.
Appreciate you very much.
Talk to you Thursday.
All right, brother.
RJ Young.